to another edition of the Poet series. I am your host, Henry the Poet, and today we're going to get into another poem. It's a continuation of the poem in my last video titled Henry. The poem today that we will be discussing is titled Henry Jr. All right, so let's go ahead and let's start off with the first stanza. Time that I wrote this poem, a lot of things in my life weren't clicking. A lot of stuff was just falling apart, and it was like, wow, like how did I end up here? And so it was like I'm just trying to figure out some things. A lot of times in life when you're going through something, you don't really have somebody that can come alongside you and say, hey, this is how you should handle this, or this is how this should happen. And that's what was happening to me. I really didn't have a lot of people who I could really talk to or really vent to. And so I was just figuring things out on my own. And honestly, it drove me into a depression to where I even thought about taking my own life. Second stanza, is exactly how it says. A lot of the mistakes that I did were honest mistakes. They weren't things that I went out and just planned on doing. Like for example, a girl I was with for almost 2 years. Like I really loved her and I was really committed to her. Like I cheated on her, and it was like, what? Like how? And a lot of people would probably say, well, that wasn't a mistake. But in all actuality, it was, because I didn't understand who I was, and I didn't understand why I did the things that I did. And a lot of the things that I did were honest mistakes. And so I spent a lot of time trying to reconcile and trying to fix a lot of that stuff that I broke, and I wasn't able to. And it was like, dang man, you failed at school, you failed at this, you failed at that. And so it's almost like all my failures are starting to pile up, and I don't have anywhere to hide it. I don't have anywhere to get rid of it. And so it's like I have to sit there and look at my failures, and it really was discouraging. Last stanza was pretty much me being honest and open. It's like, where's help for me? Like, does anybody even hear the cry that I'm giving right now? And a lot of times I think we as people don't really want help because it makes us seem weak, but we want help because it makes us feel like we're not alone. And so during this period of my life, a lot of the things that I'm battling, a lot of the failures that I'm experiencing are private failures. I'm not out here telling my whole family, hey, I just flunked out of college. The girl y'all met, we just broke up. I know y'all loved her and everything, but we broke up. And there was a lot of other personal stuff too that was going on that I really couldn't talk about. And so a lot of these failures are piling up. And it's like, is there help for me? Does anybody even care about the fact that I'm going through this? The fact that depression is setting in on me every other week or every week and probably every day during this season of my life. Like it was like a dark cloud hanging over me. And so I'm asking, like, all these mistakes that I made, is there even forgiveness for it? Because if there is, I want it. And I talk about drowning in the sea of remembrance. Every night I'm playing these mistakes over in my mind because the consequences were real. The consequences cost me real things. And so I'm sitting here depressed and I'm sitting here replaying everything in my mind. And so I'm asking, is there help for me, for people like me? Because if there isn't, I'm going to die. Not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, in a lot of different ways. But I was really crying out for help in this last stanza of the poem. And I'll be right back with my final conclusion. A lot of times, I think we try to be strong. We as people in general, especially men, but people in general. And a lot of people really go through a lot, and they don't say nothing, you know. And sometimes it could be a pride issue, but most of the times it's more of a you don't understand issue. And when I was writing this poem, I kind of hesitated to put it in a book because I'm like, people can read this. Like, what will they think of me? Like, would they be thinking, I'm psychotic and off my medication or what? But I made the decision to put this in the book because it's real. And that's what my poetry is a reflection of, real life. A lot of these things in my poetry are things I've either experienced or either things I've seen people close to me experience. And so it's like, I understand how it feels to go through life and feel like you failed at everything, to feel like, no decision you make is right. You're at a stop sign and there's literally no wrong move you could make. And then out of the clear blue, you hit a U-turn and they're like, what? That is the dumbest thing you could do at a stop sign. You didn't go right. You didn't go left. You didn't even go straight. You hit a U-turn. What is that? But even if you're like me in this poem, even if you've made a ton of mistakes, and I mean a ton, I'm racking up 45 grand in student loan debt because I flunked out of college. And I got to pay that back. And so that's on me. That's on my credit. And so maybe you haven't made a mistake as huge as going to school and flunking out. Maybe yours might have been on a smaller scale. But just know that no matter what mistake you have made, no matter how many hearts you have broken, intentionally or unintentionally, no matter how many failures are piling up in your backyard, there is still hope for you. As long as you're breathing, there's hope for you. There's forgiveness available for you. And I'm going to get into that in my next poem, and it will be titled Henry the Third. And so until then, I'll see you next time on the Poet Series.